Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 7 of What If Naruto Became a Fallen Angel. If you guys enjoy this What If, and want to see part 8 of it, comment down below, and let me know. And go ahead and check out other What Ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. No, you can't come, Naruto said for the 10th time as he was getting ready to go to Suzuki's dinner. Kuroka's head dropped while Office just stood there silently. He already wasn't popular among some of the devil nobility because of his actions and what he was. Being closely associated with a stray devil, and a being who is in a way stealing people from their side to her own wasn't going to do him favors. You act like you could stop me, Office said sitting on his bed. Naruto glared at her from the corner of his eye. Would you prefer if I wiped out the devils? In return you would join me, Office suggested. Naruto nearly face planted when he heard that. He couldn't tell if she was being serious or not from her face. Please don't, Naruto said, hoping that the dragon god didn't go through with that idea. The blonde had dressed himself in a formal kimono that Yusaka had gotten him during his stay with her. It was black with orange around the sleeves. There was the image of a Rinnegan with 9 Nagatama under it. Why do you even want to go anyways? You get nothing from it, you're only wasting your time. I wish to observe you, Office responded. Naruto was about to respond but was interrupted as Grafia teleported into the room. Grafia looked Naruto up and down before nodding. That attire is acceptable, Grafia said to the blonde. Naruto grinned at the maid's approval of his outfit. Grafia looked over at the other two in the room with the same cold look as always. You two are not permitted to come to this meeting. It would cast a bad light on my lord to be associated with a stray, and one who has caused so many to go astray, Grafia said, shutting down any thought of them going. I want to go, Office reiterated. Naruto looked between the two as they were locked in, yet another duel of ice-cold stares. Thinking quickly, Naruto used Shukaku's power to summon sand from his body to bind the two. Grabbing into Grafia, the two vanished. Office flexed her power to blow away the sand. He escaped, she muttered. Naruto and Grafia appeared near the occult research club. The maid stuttered a bit as she wasn't used moving in that manner. Come on, we don't have much time before she finds us, Naruto told the strongest queen who had regained her bearing. Grafia reactivated her spell circle. Underworld. Suzuki was sitting at a large table with a bored look on his face. Where are they? He cried, looking at the food that was laid out in front of him in hunger. Looking around to make sure no one was looking. I'm sure no one will mind if I eat a bit, Suzuki muttered as he reached towards the food, only to have a spike of ice nearly impaled it. Naruto laughed a bit as he and Grafia walked into the room. Suzuki was wearing a formal outfit but looked pale white at almost having his hand impaled. Lord Lucifer, I'm sure you didn't just try to eat before your guest arrived. Am I? Grafia asked the leader of hell. Naruto whistled at how whipped Suzuki was when it came to his queen. If Grafia hadn't confirmed that she wasn't his wife, he would have pegged them as a married couple. Of course not Grafia, Suzuki responded quickly. Grafia showed Naruto to his chair and even pulled it out for him. The blonde thanked the man and sat down across from Suzuki. Looking at the food, he couldn't really blame Suzuki for wanting to eat some before. Every dish looked professionally made and the aroma was breathtaking. My wife will be joining us shortly, Suzuki said to Naruto, who noticed once again that Grafia was emanating a dark aura. Thanks for the offer, Suzuki. This is the first time I've been in the underworld, Naruto told Naruto, who picked up the goblet in front of him and sniffed it before drinking some of it. Not bad, Naruto commented, putting the cup down. The doors of the dining room opened. The two superpowers looked over and saw a beautiful woman with short lime green hair that reached her shoulder with blue eyes. She had flawless light-colored skin, and like the majority of supernatural women he had seen in this world, she had a curvaceous figure with a bust that rivaled Grafia's. Her hair was slightly parted on the right, covering her left eye under her bangs. She wore an elegant Victorian-style dress. The top was completely gold while the skirt part was the same color as her hair. She had the air of nobility around her as she stood at the door with a small smile on her face. Sorry I'm late, honey, she said as she walked next to the Crimson Satan. Naruto, let you introduce you to my wife Ichiko, Suzuki introduced his wife to the fallen angel, who casually waved from his seat. Ajuka took the seat on Suzuki's right-hand side. It's a pleasure to meet you, Lady Astaroth. If you don't mind me asking, are you related to Ajuka Beelzebub? Naruto asked as politely as he could, not wanting to insult either the woman or her husband. He had quickly noticed the resemblance she had to the Beelzebub Satan. The last name only served to convince him further, as he knew that Astaroth was Ajuka's original surname. He is my twin brother, she answered, giggling a bit. I get asked that a lot, she continued. You don't have to be so formal. If you're anything like my husband, then you must hate it. Do you mind if I just call you Naruto? She asked him. That's fine, Naruto said, sighing in relief that he didn't have to focus so much on trying to be polite. Will Grafia be joining us? Naruto asked, looking over at the maid who stood to the side with the same cold look on her face. And the same hatred. Naruto added in thought. Did something happen between the two women in the past to cause such hatred in Graphia? Ichiko either didn't have any negative emotions towards Graphia, or she was very good at suppressing it. Unfortunately, Graphia has other things to attend to. Surzucha said, frowning as he looked at his maid. Naruto raised an eyebrow as to why the Satan seemed sad that Graphia wouldn't join Strongest Queen excuse herself before exiting the room, leaving the three. I'm surprised that you didn't bring anyone with you, Surzucha stated. Well, this was kind of a last-second thing and I didn't want to cause you any problems with my guests, Naruto said with a nervous laugh. He was really hoping that Office wouldn't try anything and decide to break into the underworld just to get to him. So how did the two of you meet? The blonde asked the two devils. Well, we go back to the war between the anti-Satan faction and the Satans who ruled at that time. Ajuka introduced the two of us when the war first broke out. She was assigned to my squad. Over time we grew closer and fell in love. After the war we decided to settle down and get married, Surzucha said. I am remembering that day as if it were yesterday, Ichiko said, closing her eyes as she remembered the day she met her husband. A small blush appeared on her face. It was love at first sight for me. It was my first time in battle, and he was a complete gentleman as he was the one who taught me how to fight, she recalled. Surzucha's a gentleman? Really? Naruto questioned, recalling everything he knew about Surzucha's, much to the Red Devil's despair. Maybe he had been different during the war. Naruto felt Ichiko glaring at him when he questioned her memory of Surzucha's. The blonde laughed nervously, hoping he hadn't insulted her too much. Sorry, I didn't mean to insult you, Naruto apologized. It's fine. Ichiko sighed, letting the issue drop. I must admit that is a fine kimono. Where did you get it? The green-haired devil asked. It was a gift from Misaka, the yokai faction leader, Naruto answered. I used to live with her before moving closer to Kuo in order to watch over Rainer. Considering my position with Rias now, I guess I'm going to be staying there a bit longer, Naruto elaborated. Surzucha narrowed his eyes once Naruto. Naruto, you seem rather close to Misaka. Is there more to your relationship with her than simple friends? You've lived with her, and you even expose yourself to save her daughter, when most fallen angels wouldn't. Surzucha asked the blonde Uzumaki, who looked a bit guilty. He hadn't expected Surzucha to catch on to that, to be honest. I love her, Naruto answered honestly. He wasn't about to hide something that would ruin the relationship he had built with the devils. Surzucha didn't say anything for a bit before sighing. You know, you don't make this easy, do you, Naruto? Surzucha said with a small chuckle. Do you still intend to marry Rias Tan? I'm fine with you having a harem if you treat everyone fairly and they all agree to it, Surzucha said calmly before his face turned murderous. But if you hurt my Rias Tan, no force in universe will save you from me, Surzucha threatened the blonde. I promise you I will never hurt Rias. And I never break my word, Naruto said confidently. He was going to free Rias of that marriage she had with Riser, and if they ended up getting married then he would love her as best as he could. Sometimes it was hard to wrap his head around it. Never in his life did he ever think that he may end up marrying more than one woman. It happened back in the elemental nations, but it was extremely rare. Does Rias know about your relationship with Misaka yet? Ichiko asked with a raised eyebrow. No, Naruto relented. I have been meaning to talk to her about it, but have been rather busy. I want to talk to her before my battle with Riser. Depending on how she takes it, I guess we can move from there. Misaka already said she was fine with it. Naruto told the two devils to process what Naruto had told them. It was good that Misaka was fine with sharing the blonde, but Surzucha knew his sister. He hated to admit it, but Rias was rather greedy and would fight it. Ichiko sighed. Naruto, I may not have known you for long, but let me tell you this. Talk to Rias, and get everything settled, because if she gets hurt because of you. Her eyes became dangerously sharp and her lips twisted into a wicked smile. I'll skin you alive. Haha, she joking, right? Naruto asked nervously but got no response. Surzucha. Naruto turned towards the Redeed looking for support, but he paid him no mind. Like I said, I promise both of you. I will not hurt Rias. And if she can't accept it then we'll work something up, Naruto said. You better. The challenge for Rias' hand in marriage is next week in case you forgot, and you better win. I wouldn't stand for my sister-in-law marrying that pig of a chicken, Ichiko reminded him. Looking at her watch she noticed the time. Surzucha, I believe it's time we wrap things up, she suggested. But we haven't had dessert yet, Surzucha whined. Oh, you'll get your dessert, Ichiko said grinning. Feel free to spend the night, Naruto, if you desire. If not, just ask Graphia to take you home, she said, teleporting away with Surzucha not even giving Naruto a chance to ask where Graphia was. Thinking about it, he hadn't seen Graphia at all since the dinner started. Naruto sighed as he slumped in his chair. He had no idea how to get out of the underworld since this was his first time in the area. I wonder what that was all about, Naruto mused before deciding to see if he could find Graphia and get her to take him home. This place is huge. Naruto said as he wandered the halls of the Satan's castle. He had no luck in finding Grafia anywhere. Whenever he asked some of the other servants, they didn't know either. For all I know, she might not even be here anymore. Naruto thought to himself as he walked towards the kitchen to check if the maid was there. Hearing a crash from the opposite side of the hall, Naruto rushed over and barged into the room. Before he realized where he was, he slipped and fell into a large pool of hot water. Surfacing, Naruto came face to face with a very naked Grafia. Looking down, Naruto got a view of her body. The crimson blush threatened to take over Naruto's face before he attempted to get away from the woman before she unleashed her wrath upon him. Before he could, Grafia grabbed him and pulled him towards her. "Where do you think you're going?" she said, sounding annoyed. Her breath reeked of alcohol and her cheeks were blushed. Next to her was an empty bottle of sake. "You think you can come in here and peek on me?" Grafia asked him roughly. "Well, I guess you're pretty cute," she said, holding him closely. "Grafia, I'm sorry." He yelled only for her to bite the top of his ear softly. Naruto's heart was racing, but he calmed himself. He had no idea what was going on, but he knew that she was too drunk to know what she was doing. "Be quiet," Grafia said rudely, and a bit slurred. "I haven't held a man since that bastard Sursages chose that cunt Ajuka over me as his wife." She spat angrily. Naruto felt her nipples poking into his back as Grafia held him closely. Her face softened as she continued, "I gave up everything to be with him. My family was sworn to serve the Lucifer family. When I sided with Sursages, I betrayed them," she said, patting his head. "I was so happy. He said he loved us both. But when he became Lucifer, he could only choose one as his bride. And he picked her," she growled. Naruto felt bad for the female devil. She thought that she would get her happy ending. That she would live with the man she loved and be loved. Loved so much that she would choose him over her own family only to be betrayed. "I'm sorry you had to go through that, Grafia," Naruto said quietly. He didn't know what else to say to her. It was such a tragic love story. "If you need someone to talk to, I'll listen to you," Naruto told her. Grafia didn't respond and just held him for a while. The two just sat there in the water enjoying each other's presence, regardless of how awkward it was for Naruto. It wasn't long before Naruto heard a soft snoring behind him. Looking back, he saw that she had fallen asleep. Her cheeks were still blushed from the liquor she had drank. Despite that, she looked peaceful in her sleep. Getting out of her grasp, Naruto stood back up. His outfit was drenched from being in the water for so long. Looking over at Grafia, he picked her up and moved her out of the water. Looking around the large bath, he spotted where she had left a towel and her clothing. "I can't just leave her like this," Naruto said, and he moved her closer to the towel and began to dry her. The blonde avoided looking at her more private parts as he cleaned the water off her skin. He couldn't help but admire how flawless her skin was. Finishing off, he dried her hair before putting her clothes back on her. "Now I just need to find her room," Naruto muttered as he created 10 clones to look through the building. The blonde sat down next to Grafia and waited for one of his clones to send the location of Grafia's room. Within minutes, one of his clones popped out of existence and relayed the message to him. It didn't take long for Naruto to arrive at the door that his clone had told him lead to Grafia's room. Opening the door, Naruto found a room that, like the rest of the house, was finely furnished with Victorian-style furniture, but overall didn't have much in terms of decorations. Everything was cleaned and perfectly organized. Walking in, Naruto moved over to the large queen-size bed and had a clone pull her blanket back. The blonde gently placed the strongest queen down on the bed and pulled the blanket over her. Seeing that his work was done, Naruto decided to let her sleep in peace. Looking back, she looked different in her sleep than when working. She was much more serene and gentle looking. Naruto smiled sadly before deciding to leave the room. Walking towards the door, he spotted a picture frame on the ground. The fallen angel picked up the fallen picture frame from the floor. The picture was one of slightly younger looking Sursages, Grafia, and Ichiko together. The three looked very happy together in the picture, but the glass was completely cracked. They used to be so happy together, Naruto said to himself, placing the picture on the desk face down. "Sursages," Grafia muttered as her eyes slightly opened. Her vision was very hazy and her head was pounding. She saw the blurry image of Naruto. "Sorry, Grafia, but I'm Naruto. Go to sleep," Naruto said, walking out of the room. Grafia stared at the door before returning to her slumber. Naruto himself was wondering what to do now. Eventually, he found another maid who gave him a room to stay in for the night. Day before the battle, Naruto gulped as he prepared for what he was about to do. He could feel Rias on the other side of the door. The rest of the peerage was in their classes, so it would only be the two of them. Knocking on the door, Naruto surprised Rias, who was in the middle of going through some papers. "Naruto, I wasn't expecting you," Rias said, moving some of the papers out of the ways. "Rias, I need to talk to you," Naruto said as he walked towards her desk. Rias raised a brow, wondering why her possible fiancé was being so serious about. She could tell from his face that he wasn't playing games. "Sure," Rias said, sounding a bit unsure. Naruto sat in the chair across from her. "So what do you need to talk about, Naruto? Is it about your battle with Riser tomorrow?" she asked him. The Redid was nervous. Was he going to back out now? Naruto closed his eyes and took in a deep breath as he prepared himself for the talk he was going to have. I love you, Sokka-chan, Naruto said finally. Ria's heart dropped when she heard him say that. Looking at the devil, Naruto saw the look of horror on her face. But I will still fight Riser for your hand, Naruto continued. Rias looked confused for a second, before realizing what he was implying. You want to make a harem? Rias questioned with narrowed eyes. She didn't expect him to do this, but in reality, she should have seen this coming. Still, she didn't like it and Naruto could see it in her face. Rias, we don't have to get married, if you don't want. But I can't just leave you, Sokka and Kunu. I want to give us a try, but I will not force you to do anything you don't want, Naruto said sincerely. He wasn't going to hide anything from her. Rias was having an inner conflict. On one hand, she didn't really want to share her husband with anyone. She refused to be second to anyone, especially in her own love life. But on the other hand, Naruto was a nice guy. He was sincere and honest with her. He knew what it was like not being seen as who you are. Most importantly, he saw her as Rias, not the heiress of the Gremory clan. He was nothing like Riser. He wasn't arrogant or a massive pervert. He didn't make out and grope other women in front of her. Then it struck her. Well, let's say we do fall in love, Rias said, standing up with a prideful smirk, and her arms crossed under her breasts, making them seem even bigger than normal. I'll just make you love me more than her, she declared. Naruto's sweat dropped when he heard her declaration. Rias, she agreed to share, Naruto told her. I'll think about it, Rias said, smirking. But I'll make sure that I'm first in your heart. Naruto smiled at that. It wasn't really what he was expecting, but he was happy with the outcome. It was better than having their relationship fall apart. Make sure you watch tomorrow. I'll wipe the floor with that chicken, Naruto told her. Rias smiled as the two shared a hug. Naruto blushed as he felt her two massive orbs pressing against his chest. Rias could feel his muscles through his clothing. Thank you so much for doing this for me, Naruto, she said, basking in his natural warmth. He had saved her having to do something she may regret, like giving her virginity away or putting her peerage in danger. Make sure you kick his ass for me. Oh, we will cow tits, Shukaku responded in Naruto's mind, much to the blonde's annoyance. It's no problem, Rias, Naruto said, pulling away from her. Now I have to go get ready, Naruto told her. He had gotten what he needed to get done over with. Now that he had that off his chest, he was ready to face Riser in their match. You ready, Shukaku? Naruto asked the beast in his mind. Ha! I haven't had a battle in a while, kid. I've been itching to feel some blood, Shukaku responded with a bloodthirsty grin on his face. Naruto sighed as he bid Rias farewell and headed home. The event was going to be huge. The cadre going up against a member of the Pillar clan for the head of the heiress of the Gremory and sister of the Lucifer. The entire underworld would be watching. Rias watched the two walk away. She couldn't help but frown at what they had talked about. She didn't really like the idea of sharing. But she wasn't going to jeopardize her chances of getting out of that accursed contract with Riser. Let's do this, Naruto said, leaving the school grounds. Underworld, next day. Naruto stood in an empty room as he waited for Surziches to come and take him to where he would do battle against Riser and his peerage. He wore his red sage coat with black flames at the bottom over a light set of ombu-like armor. Strapped his right side was a pouch filled with kunai with another next to it filled with shuriken. You think we have enough, Shukaku? Naruto asked, raising up his arm and looking at a seal on his forearm. Yeah, we won't need any more. If you say so, Naruto muttered as he looked over at the clock. If he remembered correctly, then Surziches should be arriving soon. Hearing a knock on the door, well, speak of the devil, Naruto said, grinning as he opened the door for the Satan. Surziches was dressed in his Lucifer robes and armor, rather than his casual apparel. You ready? He asked. Unlike normal, one could feel how serious he was from the tone of his voice alone. The blonde nodded in response. Surziches smiled. Thanks for this. If everything works out, we may even end up being brothers-in-law. The Redeed said, much to Naruto's amusement, who laughed but couldn't help but agree that it would be pretty cool. Let's go, Surziches said, teleporting the two of them into his school gym. Good luck. I don't need it. All eyes are on you, Surziches said before leaving. The match between Naruto Uzumaki versus Riser Phoenix for the hand of Rias Gremory in marriage will start soon. He heard Graphia's voice echoing from the speakers. There are no promotions in this battle as there are no territories. The battle will be over when either Riser or Naruto surrenders, or are incompletable of battle. When one is unable to continue, they will be teleported away from the battlefield. The battle starts now, she announced to everyone who was listening or watching from home. Naruto took in a deep breath as he pulled in the energy of nature. The color around his eyes took an orange pigment, while his eyes became toad-like. With his senjutsu, he could feel Riser's group moving towards him. It was clear that they were going to try and get him from all sides as they quickly started to go around the gym building. 3 pawns from the left and right with 1 knight with each group, Naruto thought as he looked forward. Riser with 2 bishops coming from the front, 2 rooks and 2 pawns from the back. Looking up at the roof, 1 queen from up top, Naruto concluded with his sage mode. This wouldn't take long at all, Shukaku said with a loud laugh. Say Naruto, do you remember the form guard took when you two fought? The tailed beast asked the blonde who raised an eyebrow at the strange question. Why bring that up now? Then it hit him. A twisted smile stretched from ear to ear on the blonde's face. Holding up a hand sign, Naruto opened the seals on his wrists. The cult research club room. Everyone in the peerage watched one as Riser's peerage started to go into position. From the looks of it, they wanted to take out Naruto in one swoop, rather than have him pick them off one by one. Meanwhile, they saw Naruto standing in the middle of the gym with sand pouring out of his sleeves. Sand? Issei asked Kiba, who could only shrug. He didn't know much about his fellow blonde, and had yet to see this power before. Everyone could see that Rias was a bit nervous, but so far nothing major had happened in the battle. With Surziches, the Satan watched on with Ajuka and Ichiko at his side. It seems like they are preparing themselves. Riser is going to take the offensive here. But I am curious where all that sand is coming from, Ajuka said, studying the battlefield. The sand just seemed to fall from his sleeves without end, and pooled around the blonde's feet. I'm not sure. I haven't seen that one yet, Surziches said to Ajuka, who nodded. Back with Naruto. The four walls exploded as the opposing peerage charged in. The ceiling above him collapsed as an explosion tore through it. Naruto didn't even try to dodge as everything fell on him. The opposing peerage surrounded the debris. Riser smirked. Oh come on, that can just be it, Riser said. You aren't wrong, Naruto voice said from the pile. Riser frowned when he saw an orb of sand standing strong despite all the rubble on top of it. Naruto's voice was coming from inside of the orb. Could see sand particles floating in the air of the gym. Shukaku, are you ready? Naruto asked the tailed beast, who smirked and held out his fist. Naruto placed his own against a much larger one. Let's party, Shukaku roared in Naruto's head. Isabella, break through that barrier, Riser ordered his rook. Isabella was a woman with short brown hair with red highlights and gray eyes. She wore a white mask which covered the right side of her face. Her outfit consisted of a black jacket with white shoulders and jeans. Her jacket was open, revealing her large breasts and cleavage, and it was cut off at her midriff. Her jeans had a section missing on the right leg, and also had 3 leather straps on her calves and 2 bands on her right pant leg. On her hands she wore black gloves. Right? The rook said, charging at the dome. Rearing her hand back, she punched the wall of sand. Her single visible eye widened when she saw that her attack hadn't even dented the barrier standing between her and the blonde. Nice try, Naruto said from inside before the ball of sand exploded, blasting her back. Riser's peerage was forced to avert their eyes as a thick sandstorm raged around them. Isabella looked up to see a large figure moving towards her. I got to say, this is a new one for me, Naruto said, but his voice was distorted. It sounded like both him and Shukaku were talking at once. The rook could only see his silhouette, but she knew that he was a bit bulkier than before, with 2 spikes on the head that resembled animal ears, and a massive tail bigger than Naruto himself swinging behind him. His eyes glowed through the sandstorm. Naruto's eyes were yellow with a 4-pointed star pupil and 4 dots around it. Isabella felt something crawl up her legs and around her midsection. Punching at whatever was covering her, she felt only sand. Her eyes widened when the sand continued until only her face was left uncovered. I guess this is your win, she said respectfully. Her body started to glow before she disappeared. One of Riser's rook has been retired. With Rias. What's going on? I can't see anything, Issei asked the rest of the Grimory's peerage. The sandstorm had blocked out the audience from seeing what was going on. White pervert. Kaneko said in response as she watched the battle. We don't know, Issei, Kiba told the news member, but his eyes were glued on the screen. Naruto. Damn it, Isabella, Riser yelled as he fired his flames towards where he heard his rook's voice last. Everyone get out of the storm, he ordered as he and those near him retreated back through the hole they had made when they entered the gym. Within seconds, the rest of his peerage minus Isabella stood by his side outside of the gym building. They all saw something shoot up from the hole in the ceiling and landed in front of them for everyone to see. Riser took a step back at what he saw. Naruto looked less human, but more like a humanoid tanuki. His skin was a sand-colored brown with dark blue markings covering his body. While his right arm looked normal, his left was a massive monstrous claw. Behind him swung a large tail with the same markings as the rest of his body. Naruto's face resembled Shukaku's, but with the same bright blonde hair on top. The hell is that thing? Riser yelled when he saw Naruto. It was the same thought that ran through the minds of several entities watching the battle. But for him, it was a bit worse. The killing intent that was leaking from the tailed monstrosity was enough to frighten his peerage motionless. You're shivering? Funny. I didn't think phoenixes could get cold, Naruto said, raising his enlarged arm up. Soon a shuriken, Naruto yelled as he swung his arm, sending dozens of thin discs made of sand at the group. Most of them were able to get out of the way of the attack, but the 2 members dressed as maids were struck. Naruto watched on as they were taken away from the battle. 2 of Riser's pawns have retired. That is the weirdest tanuki I've seen in my life, Nia. A girl wearing a skimpy sailor outfit. From her ears he could tell that she was a Nekomata. She was standing next to another Nakamata who had blue hair and red eyes, while she herself had red hair and blue eyes. Who cares what it is? Yubaluna was a buxom woman with long, wavy purple hair falling down her back with the same colored eyes. Her hair covered her right eye and went down to her breasts. Her attire consisted of a blue tunic top that revealed a lot of her cleavage, and a light purple skirt with openings on the sides. She wore black shoes and stockings. Her shoulders were covered by pauldrons. Swinging her staff at the blonde, she fired a fireball at the blonde, who smirked as he intercepted the attack with his tail, causing it to explode. To everyone watching, it looked like a bomb had just gone off in front of Naruto, covering him completely. Nice try, Naruto said within the smoke, before roaring, clearing out the smoke from the explosion. Lee, Nell. Distract him. Yubaluna, Mihi, Ravel, use any magic you can to hurt him. Shulin, Mira, Shiryu, go around and attack from behind. Carloman, Cirrus, flank him when you see an opening. Riser ordered his group. He knew that this wouldn't be easy. Even someone as prideful as he was knew that the blonde fallen angel was extremely powerful. But he thought that his advantage in numbers would be enough to give him the win. Naruto narrowed his eyes as he saw 4 of the girls charging at him. 2 of them were very young-looking girls with light green hair wearing gym outfits. The 2 of them carried a flaming chainsaw each. The other 2 were the cat girls. The 2 chainsaw-wielding girls jumped into the air with their chainsaws ready to strike. The Jinchuriki blocked their attack with his enlarged arm. Their eyes widened as their chainsaws stopped when the blades sunk into the sand. Sand extended out of the arm, where the chainsaws had hit, and wrapped around the chainsaws in their arms. The 2 Nakamatas attempted to save their fellow pawns, only to be captured in a coffin of sand from under them. Gah! The 2 cried out. Their faces blushed red as they felt the sand against every inch of their body. The last 2 pawns in the rook attacked Naruto from behind, only for his tail to shift into a massive arm which captured Mira and Shiryu in its crushing grip. The 2 screamed in pain as they felt themselves slowly getting crushed. Oi Shukaku, don't kill him, Naruto yelled at the tanuki. Damn it all, Riser yelled as his wings blazed behind him. Ravel looked a bit scared at the monstrous Naruto, who held her peerage sisters. Yubaluna. Ravel. Help me blast this guy to hell, Riser ordered as he prepared a large fireball. Shulin, who has managed to escape from Naruto's tail, looked on in shock how badly they were being beaten by the blonde. Ravel didn't look like she wanted to do it, but it was an order from her king and brother. Yubaluna didn't even question her king as she prepared her own attack. Take this, you bastard, Riser yelled as the 3 fired their attacks at Naruto, who was holding 6 members of his peerage in his sand. Shukaku. Yeah. Shukaku responded, moving the sand under them to block the attack with a wall of sand. Ultimate defense, Shukaku's shield. A replica of the tailed beast formed wearing a large hat. The 3 attacks weren't able to so much as budge the statue of Shukaku. Hey brat, can you get this over? This isn't worth my time or effort, Shukaku complained. The blonde sighed but accepted nonetheless. Naruto knocked the turquoise twins by knocking their heads together, and used the sand to squeeze the other 4 until they surrendered. He should have known that using Shukaku's power was going to be overkill. He hadn't even taken any damage since the start of the battle. He could have easily beaten them without the tailed beast, but he wanted to see how it would fare against these devils. 6 pawns have retired. No, one of the 2 remaining knights yelled as she charged at Naruto with her sword blazing brightly. The blonde pointed his arm at the woman. His arm shot out towards her and wrapped around her body. They couldn't even hear her as she tried to struggle against the sand, but to no avail. Naruto's arm was reduced back to a normal size now. The other knight tried to help her fellow knight, but trying to cut through the sand with her own sword. Is this really sand? She questioned as her sand bounced off the shell of sand that held her friend. Riser took the opportunity to attack Naruto with a barrage of fireballs along with Yubaluna. He couldn't help but smirk when Naruto made no attempt to block or dodge the attacks. God, you bastard, the blonde devil said arrogantly as he watched the smoke rise from the flames from his explosion. The phoenix walked towards the site of the explosion, confident that he had been able to deal a crippling blow against the blonde while his guard was down. Not as tough as UT. He couldn't finish his taunt as Naruto's hand lashed out and punched his face hard enough to splatter it. Riser was sent flying back as his body healed from what would have been a fatal blow. Is it? Naruto asked, walking out of the fire. His clothing was slightly burned, but he didn't have a burn on his actual body. Shukaku's killing intent flooded the area. Images of their deaths flashed through their minds as Naruto walked towards the queen and 2 bishops. The last knight and rook ran towards their king, who was quickly healing from Naruto's attack. Time to end this. Naruto rushed at the 2 faster than they could even see. With a swift kick to the abdomen, Yubaluna flew back into the school. Her eyes rolled to the back of her head before she disappeared like the pawns had before. Around the same time, the sand that held the captured knight loosened as fell to the floor. The knight is retired. The queen has retired. Naruto looked down at Riser's bishops. Ravel stared into his shuriken-shaped yellow eyes. Shukaku's malice evident behind them. The sight of the yokai-like monstrosity combined with the feeling of dread radiating from Naruto was enough to break their will battle. I surrender. Avel stuttered out. The last girl beside her nodded to that out of fear for the fallen angel before them. He had taken down so many of them without even trying. They knew that the fight was lost. 2 bishops have retired. Damn it. Riser yelled as he got back up, his last 2 pieces couching beside him. He had watched his 2 bishops give up to the blonde's intimidation. Why do you even care what happens to Rias? Who she marries means nothing to the fallen angels. Riser yelled as his wings flared to life and charged at the blonde. Why do I care? Naruto asked as he watched the high-class devil flying towards him. I care because she's a nice person. He yelled as he took the offensive. Naruto punched Riser into the ground hard enough that the entire schoolyard shook. She has dreams. Naruto yelled, kicking him through a tree. Riser healed himself and fired a fireball at Naruto, who charged through it. Rias is her own person. Naruto destroyed Riser's left side with a heavy punch which healed in seconds. She's not someone's fuck toy, Naruto said, punching through his face. She's not a ticket to power. Naruto yelled as sand gathered into his right arm, returning it to its massive form. I will not let you use her like that. Naruto roared as he called on Shukaku's curse marks in the form of a Rasengan and slammed it into Riser. The ground under them exploded from the force behind Naruto's attack. Seals spread over Riser's body as soon as the attack made contact with his body. I can't move, Riser said, attempting to get back up only to find it impossible. His body felt like it was made of stone. What did you do? Riser yelled at Naruto, who stood over his downed phoenix. The sand fell off Naruto's body, returning him to his original form. These are my curse seal. As long as these are on you, you will not be able to move even an inch from that spot, Naruto said as he watched Riser struggle against the seals, but could do nothing. Give up, Riser. You lost. Please, I don't want to hurt you anymore, Naruto said to the blonde devil, who ignored him as he continued to try and break the bind. Riser's rook and knight watched on as their king tried and failed to break the seal. Riser struggled for over a minute before he acknowledged that it was useless to continue. Fine, Riser said lowly. I give up. The king has retired. Naruto Uzumaki is the winner. The 4 remaining fighters glowed before being teleported to a room where they were greeted by the lords of both the Phoenix and Gremory. Zeoticus walked up to Naruto with a smile on his face. You did great, Naruto. I must say that I was surprised when I saw that transformation of yours. But his father said to him. He was happy that his daughter's engagement had been broken. A deal is a deal. Rias Gremory will not marry Riser, Lord Phoenix said, accepting the outcome of the battle. He and his wife had been worried that Naruto was going to hurt his son too much. He was happy that the blonde cadre had chosen to use seals instead of beating Riser until he gave up. Naruto acknowledged that and turned to Riser, who he had freed from his seal. The Phoenix looked lost in his thoughts. This is his first loss. It may take a while for him to come to terms with that, Lord Phoenix said, sighing. He was worried for his son, but he was going to take this opportunity to break him of his arrogance. Naruto. The blonde turned around as Rias broke into the room and ran at him. Naruto didn't have time to react as Rias wrapped her arms around his neck and brought him into a searing kiss. His eyes widened as he felt her tongue enter his mouth. Rias pulled back and looked at him with tear eyes. Thank you so much, Rias said to him. Naruto was still a bit shocked by the kiss. Mai smiled and rubbed the top of her head affectionately. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want a next part of this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification, and also check out the other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.